Hey, I'm JD Hagel with Aux'Arc Climbing. Today we're going to talk about Alumilite Performance ADD. It says AD Delta, not ADD as in I can't pay attention to homework. It's talking about the shore hardness rating. A couple months ago, Alumilite reached out to me and set up an affiliate program with me, which is really cool. I got a discount code for you guys to use. First time you go out to Alumilite's website and purchase something, it's 10% off. It's JD Climb 10, JD CLIMB 10. And then I got some links down below, but you can look at this product, some other stuff. And that was cool. Them really appreciate it, and they also sent me this stuff to try out for climbing holds, and I think that's cool. I appreciate that, guys. Kudos to Alumilite for firing this off, and it saved me a little bit of a bank there to test this out. They gave me a liter of this Performance ADD. Now the ADD is referring to the hardness. We talked a little bit about hardness with silicone as a shore alpha rating. This is shore delta, much harder. The scales kind of work the same way, but as far as how hard, obviously silicone hardness is going to have a different range than resin hardness, and we're in that resin hardness territory now. RC3 has a low 70s rating, a really high 60s, low 70s, 71, 75, somewhere in there for hardness. This is ADD. The idea with harder resin is that it's going to lose that texture slower. It's going to lose those edges slower. It's going to have a longer lifespan on the wall. And let's talk about that lifespan on the wall. So when you look at shaping your own holds and casting your own holds versus buying holds professionally, or that middle ground where you're buying holds from other people that are shaping in their basement, you look at climbing holds on the main market, if they go into gyms, and they're very expensive, and it's an exorbitant amount of money that you're looking at, and it's kind of heartbreaking to get your wall built and look at those costs and be like, man, that's 2 sets of holds is going to cost as much as my wall did. So there's a reason for that. You get what you pay for, both directions. The things that go into your home casting holds, not only materials available to you, but the processes that they go through are much simpler than what happens in the commercial market. And we're going to kind of talk about that, because I think that's where this one comes from, is that commercial market. So it talks about that industrial purposes only. And then right off the top, it goes into the preparation. It wants you to warm the mold to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, if you can, so it'll cure correctly. This is recommended for 1/4 inch parts, especially, less than, so on and so forth. If you're casting really small parts, like imagine if you're casting credit cards, something that thin, you would want to warm that mold so it actually cures with this stuff. But I don't have that problem with RC3 as much, but they're kind of recommending it for this one. Our stuff's not that thin, so that's not a big deal. I did it one time, and it bubbled so badly. You can see the picture I've got up here. It bubbled so badly that I didn't do it again, and I didn't have that problem anymore. So I don't warm the molds for this, but if I was doing really thin stuff, I would have to. Measure equal amounts by volume, blah, blah, blah. That's all the same. Demold time's different, so on and so forth. At the very end, it says, note, for bubble-free castings. Now, this is going to be kind of relevant to all resins, even the RC3 tan. Proper procedure of casting resin involves a pressure chamber at the end that compresses those air bubbles that are inside of it, or moisture bubbles, down to where they're just minuscule and just don't even register on the spectrum. That's always good practice. RC3 tan doesn't really need it. That's as advertised. You could do it and it would improve the quality of that material, but it's not required. You can still make good quality stuff without having that pressurized time, even though it would definitely help. This stuff, I don't think you can do it without having that pressure chamber. It's talking 40 psi for 1 hour, which is the demold time, in a warm mold. So they want you to keep that mold relatively warm and under pressure. So now you need a pressure pot. Now you need an air compressor. Now you need all these other things to make this work. This is a lot more involved process. Can you just go pour this somewhere and let it sit like a normal thing and then pull it out like you would RC3 and put it on the wall? You can, because that's what I've done with some of this, but it doesn't work that well. It doesn't accomplish anything. So the other thing I have with these bottles is not only does it have all these extra recommendations for on how to cast it, it's also got all of this much more serious warnings on it. So you talk about recommended for industrial purposes only. I've been an industrial maintenance technician now for 10 years. I have been around some really nasty chemicals, acids, and all kinds of stuff out there, but I've always been in an industrial setting with them, with that PPE, those procedures, those policies, all those things that OSHA comes breathing down your neck if they're not present. I've been around those chemicals, and I'm comfortable with those chemicals because I'm comfortable with the procedures. This is in my basement, right? This is talking about stuff like, RC3 and Smooth On both have, causes skin irritation. Don't pour this in your eyes. Don't smoke this. Don't drink it. Things like that, obviously. But if it gets on your skin, you can wash it off. It's kind of bump, but not a big deal. Whatever. This stuff gets a little more serious. It may cause drowsiness, dizziness, suspected of causing cancer. Do not breathe dust, fumes, gas, mist, vapor, spray. Wash hands thoroughly after handling. Do not eat, drink, or smoke when using this product. Use only outdoors or in well-ventilated area, etc., etc. Wear respiratory and protection. Contaminated work clothing should not be allowed out of the workplace. This is some no kidding stuff. So this is ADD compared to RC3. And the question is, is the hardness and the quality of the resin worth the extra precautions and the equipment necessary? And the short answer is no. So like I said, we talked about the industry resin holds versus what you cast in your basement. Some of the industry is even using the same commercially available resin as you. Sometimes they've got proprietary blends. Sometimes they're just using stuff that you can buy as well. The difference is they have all those extra steps in place. They have that degassing the material, which is also recommended on this bottle, is to degas your material before you mix it together and then do the pressurized at the end of it even. Those industries have the ability to do that. They have the vacuum chambers, the air compressors, the pressure chambers, all that nonsense, the heating elements to properly cure and cast this material. They have the ventilated workspace. They have the respirators. They have the dehumidifiers, because this stuff is extremely susceptible to moisture, extremely susceptible. You can kind of see on the back of this how much it bubbled up. Everything I had that I cast, like I said, I'm going to show this picture, that has just bubbled up a 1/4 inch. It just, the moisture, extremely susceptible to moisture in this stuff. So you can't cast outside if you're down south. The humidity is too high. If you're up north a little bit, a little bit drier climate like Nebraska, you could probably get away with this. Down here, it's a no-go. I got to have a well-ventilated, dehumidified shop, which I don't really have. I made it work for this liter, but I'm not going to order any more of this for a couple of reasons. I don't have the equipment, and I don't want the equipment to cast this properly. And more importantly, I don't want this around my family. We've already, the RC3 is already out there, and it's already, obviously you still don't want your kids around it. It needs to be up and out of their reach. But just the fumes and the dust coming off of this kind of thing, I don't want them around it. And I want to take this stuff needs to be taken a lot more seriously than what just the RC3 from Hobby Lobby is, or Smooth On from your Blick art store. This is a different ball game. And if you play this ball game the same way you play the other stuff, it doesn't give you any better results. I've got 2 holds here. This one I've been using for his hand. This one I've been using for a foot. I'm going to get a closer picture of him so you can see the edge, but it's about a 3/8 inch edge. I've already polished off the edge on this side. I can already feel how it's rounded off. Still a usable hold, but it's already rounded off a bit compared to what this one does, just being stepped on and pushed on for the last month. This ADD hasn't lasted that much longer. But if I had degassed it before mixing it, if I had properly heated everything, if I had had that dry environment which I believe I did have a drier environment, but if I still had been able to pressure cast it after the fact and properly warm it while it cures, I think this would be a much, much harder material, and that's what they're looking for. This stuff is capable of much better quality than RC3, but it's not capable of that in the same setting that RC3 is capable of what it's doing. And that's kind of the difference. And when you look at how exorbitant the costs are for climbing holds that go into gyms, this is why. Because of all the other things that go into that hold. It's not just a mix and pour and pull out of the mold kind of process. There's a lot of other things that go into it. And if you were to take your home shapes and throw them on a gym that sees traffic 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, 365 days a year, you get 3 to 6 months out of it, maybe. It just wouldn't last that long. They can't handle that kind of abrasion so constantly. On a home wall, it's not a big deal. And that's kind of where we talk about what's best for you. Your home wall doesn't see that much traffic, so you don't need, the only traffic it sees is you. Even if you did 1 or 2 hours a day, every day, which I don't know how recommended that is, it's still not seeing what it would see from hundreds of climbers every day for 18 hours a day. Your wall can handle a lot less quality of holds and a lot more affordable holds. I still have some professionally cast holds on my wall because it was cheaper to buy those holds that were specific to certain functions, like pockets. I've got some pockets that it was cheaper for me to buy 4 or 5 pockets because I don't want 200 pockets the same like I can do with an edge. I wanted 5 or 6 pockets, so it made sense to just order those instead of shaping them and casting them and casting them and so on and so forth. Those pockets are going to outlive everything I got here because they're from Escape. They're much, much higher quality resin, much higher quality process. But everything else I have on this wall is stuff that I shaped and cast or carved out of wood, and it's going to work great for how long I've had it. I've had a lot of this stuff for 2 or 3 years and still doing great, completely functional, completely fine. But the only traffic it's ever seen is me and a couple of buddies. And for that, it works. So that's where you do have to make that decision. Are you going for the highest quality material, the highest quantity of material, or just the cheapest of what's out there? And there's where those options come in. Where ADD falls in that category is a higher quality resin, but then you're going to spend the money on the other accessories. So I would only look at this as if you're really, really concerned about how much traffic you're going to see, if your stuff's going to a large gym, if you're going to sell, if you're going to start your own business. That's where I would look at that, because now you're looking at investing in all that other equipment as well. But if all you're doing is like me and casting stuff in your basement for your own home wall and a couple of buddies, I can't justify this. And I think this has got the potential to be a better product than what RC3 is by a long shot. But again, without that extra equipment, don't spend the money or the time on this stuff. And it's much harder to use, so much more susceptible to moisture, and it's more dangerous. So while I think ADD is out there, it's definitely an industrial chemical and should be an industrial setting. And that should be kept in thought when you are considering what resins to get out there. Because this is going to go for other resins too. There's going to be other companies that have that nicer chemical. But when you look at the precautions and the other things that go in with casting it, it's easier to just take a lower quality resin that's going to last plenty long on your wall. And those are the questions you have to ask, and those are the questions I want you to be aware of before you just fire off into this hobby. So, Alumilite Performance ADD, I can't recommend it for the home casters, but if you're stepping out past that point and looking at doing your own shapes and going into the market, it might be an option for you, and you should probably pick some up to test it. But for the rest of us, I think it's a no-go. So, thanks for watching. I got some cool videos on the way. I just got some new foam that I want to shape on. I've got some other stuff down the pipeline. If you haven't checked us out on Facebook, the DIY Climbing Holes page, come check us out. We've got probably 5,100 members at the moment. So lots of great information out there, some really cool stuff. There's some 3D printing holds on there. There's some wooden holds that are being made, all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out, and feel free to ask any questions. I'm on there, and I'm happy to answer them. So I hope this has been an instructional video for you. I hope it's answered some questions, got you on the right track. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there. We'll see you.